Sliding out my third drawer, you'll see it's full of ratchets. This is not an uncommon thing. Most auto technicians will have a drawer just full of ratchets of all types. But who makes the best ratchet? Let's get into it. All right, YouTube. So who makes the best ratchets? Because we all know that ratchets are probably the single most over-purchased tool in most mechanics' toolbox. It's also the most collected item and arguably the most used tool when it comes to performing a physical repair. So that raises the question then, who makes the best ratchet? Well, we know better than to go down that hole because that's very subjective and it's going to change depending on who you ask. So how then do you determine what's the best ratchet to choose? Well, you might be thinking, well, you get what you pay for. And that's a term that I hear quite often, but that's not always the case when it comes to buying tools. You don't always get what you pay for. So to make my point that you don't always get what you pay for when it comes to buying tools, take for example this SnapOn 10-piece left-handed drill bit set. Now there's other brands that sell the same exact drill bits, but yet this SnapOn set is 2 to 3 times more expensive than other sets. So do you always get what you pay for? Not necessarily. I'd be willing to bet SnapOn doesn't manufacture these drill bits, and there's another company that manufactures these drill bits, and you can probably buy the same exact drill bits for way cheaper in a different brand. So with that example in mind, you won't automatically get a superior tool just because you paid more. There's a lot of rebranding that goes on in this business, and you guys know that. From personal experience, I've cracked SnapOn sockets and Husky and Stanley sockets that I paid way less money for didn't crack under the same sort of abuse. So sometimes you do just pay for name. Now I will say this from a realistic point of view, you want to stay away from any ratchet that has this generic head on it. So I have several ratchets that have this generic head on it. So I am speaking from experience. This ratchet broke very easy. This gear set was way too weak to handle a ratchet with this type of leverage. Now I know that ratchet manufacturers, tool manufacturers, they advertise this ratchet as being a ratchet for reach, but that's just not realistic. In the world of auto repair, this doesn't mean reach, this means leverage. So anytime you make a long ratchet, it's gonna get more leverage put on it naturally than a shorter ratchet. It is what it is. Same thing with this Craftsman ratchet, which is also this generic head ratchet. I picked this up from Lowe's. I was curious about some of the new Craftsman stuff, and so I picked this up. But I can tell you right now, I really don't have much faith in this ratchet. I really don't think this ratchet could take that much abuse. I'd be surprised if it could. I'd be happy if it could, because I do own this ratchet. Client graphics. I need you to torture test this Craftsman ratchet. Here's the part number. All right, so that's the part number right there. I picked it up from Lowe's. It's the new Craftsman by Stanley Black & Decker. You could tell by these little slash marks that they put in there. I guess that's their design. So client graphics, if you're watching this, I love to see how much torque this ratchet can take. Same thing with this ratchet, generic head. This is a Tekton ratchet. Although it's a very comfortable ratchet, you know, I can just tell you right now that the gear set in it is pretty weak. It's pretty cheap. So what's the point I'm trying to make here? Not who makes the best ratchet, but what ratchets to avoid. Because there are a lot of junk out there that's really not worth buying. And I'm sure you guys have been down that road before, just like I have. You've bought tools that you thought was going to be great, but they ended up sucking. And I have ratchets like that as well, that I thought it might be a good ratchet and it ended up sucking. And I have ratchets that I didn't think was going to be that great when I bought it, and it turned out to be a great ratchet. So it's very subjective when it comes to who makes the best ratchet, and I think it's going to boil down to personal preference. However, there are quality ratchets. There is a difference between, let's say, a nice snap-on ratchet like this and say this Stanley Black & Decker Craftsman ratchet that I have just below it. All right, so we know any tool that has a mechanism in it like a ratchet, and especially if you demand quite a bit of that tool, you're gonna have to buy a higher quality one. We all know that. But as far as there being a best, I don't think there's a such thing as a best. Although there are some ratchets that suck and there are some ratchets that are very good. I found snap-on ratchets to be very good from 1/2 inch, 3/8 all the way down to 1/4. For the most part, their ratchets have been really good. I always recommend a snap-on ratchet. I think that Mac Tools make really good ratchets as well, and they come in a little bit cheaper than snap-on, so that's a good option to go. I also think Gear Wrench makes really good ratchets as well. I've had this Gear Wrench ratchet right here for a while. This is the 84 tooth Gear Wrench ratchet, and it's a great ratchet. So it doesn't necessarily have to be that top shelf tool truck brand ratchet to be a good ratchet. I also like this Husky ratchet that I got from Home Depot quite a while ago. This has actually been a great ratchet, and I still use it, especially when I'm trying not to over torque something like some spark plugs or something. You know, I'll still grab this ratchet and use it. So there are good ratchets out there that aren't tool truck brands. Believe it or not, even this Pittsburgh Pro ratchet is really not a bad ratchet. Believe it or not, it's a pretty decent ratchet. So whoever manufactured this ratchet for Harbor Freight did a pretty good job on this ratchet. All right, so we'll go down the line here. I'll show you each ratchet that I have, which ratchet that I use the most, and what I like about them. All right, so starting with the 1/2 inch stuff, I don't really have a whole lot of 1/2 inch, but this is my probably the strongest ratchet that I have. This is a Craftsman. This is the old Made in USA style that I bought a long time ago. It's a flex. This ratchet is very strong. I've bust head bolts loose with this, lug nuts, any bolt you could think of, crank bolts. This is a very stout, durable ratchet, very large gear set in here. Never had a problem with this ratchet. If this ratchet broke, I would, wish that I could rebuy it, but I know that you probably can't rebuy it, the USA made version anymore. Because it's all Stanley Black & Decker now, but this has been a great ratchet. Love this ratchet. Next up, I got this goofy Icon ratchet, the snap-on ripoff. I don't use this ratchet. I bought it just to see, was Icon really selling good stuff. I don't like this ratchet, and I'm not saying that all Icon stuff is bad. Some of it is pretty decent, but this ratchet it sucks. It has a ginormous handle on it. It just feels bulky. I just don't like this ratchet. I really don't. But I do have it, and if I need to use it, I'll use it. Next up, this is another Craftsman 1/2 inch drive. This just came in like a cheap 400 piece mechanic tool set that I used to keep at home. In case I was working on someone's car at home, I didn't have to go up to the shop to get any tools. And then moving on down the line with the longest 3/8 stuff going down to the smaller. This is a Tekton ratchet. This is the first long ratchet that they had before they put this upgraded version out. And I bought this ratchet. Like I said earlier, this ratchet popped easy. It's got that cheap generic head on it. It's just a cheap ratchet. They don't sell this anymore. They've improved, but I still use it to detention serpentine belts and stuff like that if I have to. But really, I don't really use this ratchet anymore. Now this is the updated version. Excellent ratchet. Love this ratchet. Still use this ratchet to detention serpentine belts, but I also use it for other things. It's got good leverage on it, and it's got a nice strong gear set in it, much better than what was in this one. And so I will use this, put a little leverage on it. Nothing that would need a 1/2 inch or a breaker bar, but just, you know, something that the leverage will speed the job up, make the bolt bust a little easier, because the easier the bolt breaks free, the faster the job goes. The longer time you take trying to get a fastener out, the slower the job is. So this definitely can help you speed things up. Put this long ratchet on there, bust it loose, and keep moving. So this is a great ratchet. I use it quite a bit. I also use it on puller tools, especially if I'm doing like a harmonic balancer pull. This gives you good leverage to keep on working that tool, the puller tool, and it gives you that nice leverage to make it easier while pulling a harmonic balancer off, if that makes sense. Next, this thing right here I bought from Harbor Freight. And to be honest with you, I really bought it for this really small quarter right here. Get back, you know, behind firewalls, behind cylinder heads to get, you know, ground straps and things off. You can get back there with this thing. It's so slim, it's so skinny. So it's just a great ratchet for that reason. It does have a 3/8 drive on this side. To be honest with you, I don't use this a lot, but there have been times that I was glad that I had this ratchet, so that's why I keep that one around. Got a Pittsburgh Pro. Bought this back when Harbor Freight first tried to become a tool store and started selling tools that weren't disposable. And so I picked this up, didn't really have high hopes for it. Was highly impressed by this ratchet, to be honest. I still use this ratchet. The Pittsburgh Pro ratchets are great. I think they're better than the Icon ratchets, to be honest. So yeah, that's this ratchet. It's a complete knockoff of the SnapOn, but it is a good ratchet. Nice ratchet to take to the junkyard with you. Nice ratchet, you know, if you want to you know, take it on a mobile job or something like that, to where it's very functional, but you know, your heart won't be broken if you lose it or something happens to it. So this is a great ratchet for things like that. This SnapOn ratchet right here is my go-to ratchet. I use this ratchet the most when doing, you know, auto repair. It's great length on it, very stout, very strong. It's got a nice release on it, especially when my hands are oily. You know, just drop the socket off. So yeah, this is one of my favorite ratchets right here by SnapOn. Next down the line is this Craftsman. Bought this just out of curiosity. Don't think it's going to be a great ratchet. I hope I'm wrong. Client Graphics, I hope you do a torture test on this ratchet for me so we can see what it's made of. Alright, moving down the line. This is a gear wrench 84 tooth ratchet. I knew this was going to be a good ratchet when I bought it. I've had great success with other gear wrench tools, so I knew this was going to be a great ratchet, and I was right. Excellent ratchet. I found the head on this ratchet to be slimmer than on my SnapOn, and so it's able to get in places that the SnapOn can't, because the head's a lot slimmer. And I did work with a guy who hated SnapOn ratchets because the heads were too big. So again, it goes back to personal preference when it comes to ratchets, but I love this gear wrench ratchet. It's a great versatile ratchet. It's got a nice strong flex on it. It's got great length on it. The gear set's strong enough for the length that it is. It's just an all-around good ratchet. So next up, we got the classic FL80. Love this ratchet by SnapOn. Can't really go wrong if you buy this ratchet. Yeah, I love this ratchet. This is probably the ratchet that I use the most when I want to torque something down that, you know, it's not really critical to actually have the correct torque on it. You know, maybe it's a alternator or a starter, something where the torque in it is not really that critical. I just feel that the way this ratchet is designed, it gives you a great feel to see like how tight to take something before you stop, more than any of the other ratchets. I'm not sure why, but it's just the way it's designed. You really could feel how tight you're taking something. So this ratchet for me is so much better to use when assembling than disassembling. So I like to use this ratchet a lot when torquing down bolts and I'm not using a torque wrench. Here's a gear wrench with the roto head on it. When I bought this, these ratchets were really popular. I think right around like maybe 2016, 2017. These ratchets got really popular, so you know, I bought one. It came in a set with this one. I believe I got it at Sears, and I don't really use it at all anymore. It's not really my preference, but I used to use it a lot. It did get a lot of use. I used it for a solid year or two straight before I moved on to a different ratchet. Then just below that, I got this Tekton ratchet. I was excited when Tekton released this ratchet, but was, you know, disappointed in the ratchet. Not that the ratchet doesn't work. It works, but to me, it's just not the greatest ratchet. I don't like them. They're not sturdy enough. They're not strong enough, in my opinion. The flex on it is really easy to flex. You know, just not my cup of tea. I feel that the ratchet is somewhat heavy. You know, it's just not for me. So yeah, I didn't really care too much for this ratchet at all. All right, moving on down to this Husky ratchet. Use this ratchet a lot. I really have. Still use it, like I said earlier, when I'm trying to prevent myself from over torquing, because my go-to ratchet is significantly longer, and it's so easy to put a little bit more torque on something than you realize by using long ratchets. You don't think you are, but you are. And so using a smaller ratchet can prevent that. So that's what I use this ratchet for. But I really like this Husky ratchet. It's a great ratchet. Next down the line, this is another Tekton ratchet. Don't like it. It's got that generic head we talked about. Yeah, I just think the gear mechanism in it is kind of weak. You know, but it is great for comfort, or you know, if you're working outside and it's cold, you don't have to worry about grabbing some cold metal or anything like that. I do like that it has a bit of a curve right here. Kind of keeps you away from busting your knuckles. So it does have some redeeming value to it. However, I just don't think it's that great of a ratchet. So it's not something that I would recommend. It's not something that I would discourage either. Somebody might really like this type of ratchet, but I don't. All right, so next to it, I got this Cobalt ratchet, which I really like this ratchet. Yeah, it's just a great ratchet. It feels good in the hands, got a nice small head on it. It's kind of like around the same size as like a quarter ratchet, but it's a 3/8 drive. So if you put it next to a quarter ratchet, you can see that it's not much taller than a quarter ratchet. And really, this SnapOn quarter is actually taller than it. So it's sort of a smaller ratchet with a slim head. And I've been in cases where this was a really good ratchet to use. All right, next up I got this ratchet. This is another Cobalt ratchet. It came in like a set. I could care less, really. I'll probably just give this ratchet away. I got some more tools that I've been going through, sort of cleaning house, if you will, getting rid of stuff that I'm never going to use. This ratchet is actually one of those ratchets that I'm never going to use. So, and then this is a right tool. It has the quarter body on it with a 3/8 drive anvil on it. And man, this is a great ratchet. Very happy with this ratchet. I'm also thinking about buying more ratchets from Right Tool. I really like this ratchet. You would too. Highly recommend Right Tool. This is a stubby Tekton ratchet. I keep this around because you never know. You might get in a situation where you need it, but I don't really use it too much. All right, that takes us down to these quarters. Okay, so for the quarters, this is going to be my go-to ratchet right here. This is a Snap-on ratchet. It's the same exact ratchet as this, my 3/8 go-to ratchet, but this is the quarter. It depends on what I'm doing, obviously, but in most cases, this will be the quarter ratchet that I reach for first. Next down the line is, this is a Tekton. Same as this ratchet. Don't like it. Don't like the flex mechanism. Just not that good of a ratchet. Kind of sucks actually. Next to it is another Tekton, but this is a straight ratchet, and I feel totally different about this ratchet. This is actually pretty decent. I don't like their flex ratchets. As you can see, it's a totally different design. So you can see on these ratchets, if you look at the head on the ratchets, it's a totally different design. This one's a lot better than this one. So this straight ratchet right here by Tekton is actually pretty good. I also have another one of these straight ratchets by Tekton. That's a 3/8 drive. That should be over there, but I got it under the seat. It's like an emergency set in my truck. I didn't want to get it out, so I left it in there. But I do have one other ratchet just like this, but the 3/8 version on my 3/8 drive side. Moving down, this is a Tekton quarter, and nothing wrong with this. It's your basic roto head. Great for using it as a driver tool or nut driver. That's pretty much what I use them for, is a ratcheting nut driver for the most case. And then this is a gear wrench. Again, it was the set to this wrench that I ended up busting the handle. I can't remember what I was doing, but obviously I was misusing it some kind of way. But I do remember that I bought this Tekton because I had a real issue trying to warranty out a gear wrench. This is actually a warranty. I broke another one. Wasn't misusing it, you know, just using it as I should, and the ratchet popped on me. Put a little bit on it, but it should have been able to withstand what I put on it. And anyway, I sent it out, and it took me a really long time to get another one. And that's when I discovered Tekton. That was probably about 2014 or 2015. Moving down the line, here's a little Stanley quarter that I've absolutely never used. This came with like a little cheap Stanley toolbox that I bought from Walmart on like a Black Friday deal. Back when you used to actually really get deals on Black Friday. And I got it for like dirt cheap. And so yeah, I never used it. This is another ratchet that could be given away. So I'll probably end up giving this away. This is a cobalt ratchet, which is basically the equivalent to this 3/8, but the quarter version. I really like this ratchet. Yeah, I just like this ratchet. I like how the release buttons on these things are recessed, so you don't accidentally hit it and the socket falls off. So a nice ratchet. This is my second go-to quarter. Actually, depending on what I'm doing, this could be my go-to quarter. This round head, because it has somewhat of a palm ratchet, if you will, on the back, where you can actually rotate it. So, I mean, you can see the uses for that. You get into a situation where you can't get two hands into something, and you only can get one hand in, which happens. You can bust that fastener loose and then immediately start to loosen it enough to where you can then go in and then finish it by hand. So I use this ratchet for cases like that a lot. So, and then next, this is the equivalent to this cobalt, which came in that set I talked about, which is also going to be given away or thrown out. And then we got another stubby by Tekton. I don't even know if they carry these anymore, but they're not the greatest ratchets. They have that generic ratchet head on them that I hate, that are usually cheap, but they're small and compact, you know, just made to get in there and run something in or run something out. They're not really made to put any torque on them, so I keep them around for that reason. Don't really use this 3/8 drive one that much, but I have used this quarter one quite a few times. All right, so that brings us back here to these palm ratchets. Don't really use these that much either. I haven't never been in the situation where I said, man, I'm so glad that I had these palm ratchets. Never been in that situation. I've used them before, but never been in a situation where I felt, man, thank God I had these palm ratchets. So I'm not the biggest fan of palm ratchets. I never really found it to be necessary, but I do have them in case I do get in a situation where I needed a palm ratchet. I do have one. Okay, so I decided to throw my electric ratchets in the mix because last time I made a video called why do auto technicians buy so many ratchets? I got a comment on there from my uncle. Shout out to my uncle. He said, what about the electric ratchets? And I was like, you know what, he's right. These are ratchets too. So I decided to include the electric ratchets in there. This is a snap-on ratchet on the 14 volt platform. I love this long neck snap-on ratchet. It's a great ratchet. I have nothing bad to say other than it's a bit pricey, but it's snap-on. You know, we all expect that. It's a premium brand. You're gonna pay a premium price. That's just the way it is. But it's a great ratchet. It does perform, and it does have a LED on it right here, where most electric ratchets won't have an LED. So just to demonstrate real quick, it does have this little LED, like I said, and it does shine up to whatever it is you're working on. So I kind of like that feature about this snap-on. But it also is a very fast electric ratchet. It's just a good tool. It is what it is. So highly recommend this electric ratchet by SnapOn. Next up is this Harbor Freight Earthquake. Again, this is an older one. I don't even think they use this color anymore. This is like one of the first ones. This is back when Harbor Freight first started trying to make quality tools. They've seen enough of us tool reviewers and YouTubers online that talked about their tools and gave them enough courage to start making better stuff. And they did start making better stuff. So that's good for them. This ratchet is actually pretty decent. So whoever makes this for them, they do a pretty good job. It's not a bad ratchet. I've used it quite a bit. I will say when I first got this ratchet, I used to have a problem with the battery making contact, and I'd have to keep, you know, hitting it to make sure it's making contact for it to be able to, you know, operate. But this is a replacement because the first one I got broke, and when I got the replacement I didn't have that problem again. But this is actually my second one. I've used it so much that I wore that first one out completely and then ended up getting another one. And then I got this pneumatic ratchet, which we don't use pneumatic tools quite as much as we used to, but there are cases where a pneumatic tool has to be used. And I'll still use this air ratchet. I have nothing against using this air ratchet. You know, if my battery power tools are down, or you know, I want to bust a job out quick, because this air ratchet probably is 2 times faster than those battery ratchets. So a lot of times I will still pull an air ratchet out when I'm really trying to zip through a job. So anyway, all right guys, so what's the moral of the story? Well, there's really no such thing as the best ratchet, because that's always going to be subjective. There's always going to be somebody who have a difference of opinion, and that's okay. But you definitely want to stay away from cheap ratchets. And if you're going to be doing this as a professional, you're going to need a ratchet that will be able to, you know, handle the task that you put in front of it. So you guys make sure you hit that like and subscribe. This is Bryan916, and I'll see you on the next one.